Another year, another forgettable summer game fest. I feel like I make the same exact video every single year on this show. Seriously, I could probably just start recycling voice clips. Would you even be able to tell the difference? Just like last year, I watched about 8 hours of showcases, and despite that, there's maybe a handful of games worth getting excited about. I mean, when a new Spyro game is the most unexpected thing to come out of this year's Summer Game Fest, you know things are bad. And I'm saying this as the #1 Spyro fan. The first Spyro game is my favorite game of all time, and yes, I am cautiously optimistic about the new game, despite Toys for Bob's shaky track record. Oh, and I'm far from the only one. At the time of recording this, the Spyro reveal trailer has 7.6 million views. I'm pretty sure this is the highest viewed trailer from the show. We are constantly being told that there isn't an audience for so-called baby games anymore outside of Nintendo, but look, people want Spyro. They want mascot platformers back again. And sure, it could turn out to be disappointing, but I hope this is a message to Microsoft that yes, people also want Banjo-Kazooie to come back. But I digress. The rest of the show was extremely boring. So I'm really not that enthusiastic to make this video, as I feel like I've already made it 5 times by now. But I know there's many of you who want to hear my opinion on quite a few games that we're showing off, especially God of Horror's Laundry. Every single one of you who subscribed to me already knows exactly how I feel about this. All I can say is, I told you so. Almost 4 years ago now, when I talked about God of War Ragnarok, I knew exactly this would happen. And the fact that there's unironically people who think this looks cool when the original God of War was a male power fantasy is unbelievable. The level of tourism to this franchise in particular would put Halo to shame. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This year of the Summer Game Fest felt even more by the numbers than usual. Unlike E3, which felt like this huge expo to show off upcoming exciting new games, this was, just a series of advertisements, which I suppose it is every single year, just like the Game Awards. Anything Jeff Keighley touches is completely soulless. But even if it was just advertisements, you would think they'd at least be advertisements for new games. But no, there was a significant portion of games shown off here that are already out. It was just DLC or new updates or maybe an announcement that is being ported to consoles or PC. My time felt even more wasted than usual, which is really saying something considering I fucking play RuneScape. Game development cycles are so long now that companies don't even have anything to show every year anymore. And of course, as if I even need to say it, there's plenty of fucking woke slop here. No, woke isn't dead. We're not winning any kind of war right now. At best, you can expect more Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 or more recently 007 First Light, where there's some games that may appear based and trad on the surface, the new Gears of War game probably being the perfect example of this, but look at the game devs who are making the game. Look at the random black woman that is part of the main crew for some reason. There's plenty of red flags as long as you're paying attention, and honestly, you really don't have to dig that deep. There was a comical amount of female protagonists in game trailers this year. This shit is getting ridiculous. These games are all going to fucking bomb, man. How many billions of dollars in economic terrorism, aka boycotting, do we have to commit before these games will stop being made? I guess BlackRock, Vanguard, all these social engineering private equity firms will never stop because they basically have infinite money. I guess I'm doing my doomer bit too early this video. Instead of doing my normal format, I'm gonna save you a lot of time, unlike the Summer Game Fest, which wasted mine, and I'm only going to cover the few highlights from each show. And I wasn't even gonna bother talking about the Nintendo Direct because I figured, what could they possibly show? And then out of nowhere, the Dragon's Dogma 2 DLC is real! And they just called it Dark Arisen again? You can't even make this up. So I'll talk about that at the end of this video, and about a couple other reveals during the Nintendo Direct that I found mildly interesting. I don't feel the need to pad this video's length for an absurd amount of time for ad revenue purposes. So without further ado, here's Summer Game Fest 2026. So first off, we'll cover the Sony State of Play. Despite only being an hour long, it felt like 3. A lot of games were showing off, but there's really only 2 worth talking about for any significant amount of time, that being Wolverine and God of War Alofi. Wolverine opened up the showcase, so we'll get to that first. I've made it clear many times that I used to be a massive fan of Insomniac. They've made many of my favorite games. Spyro 1 and 2, all 4 of the Ratchet & Clank games on PlayStation 2. I'd say even Resistance 3 and Sunset Overdrive are great games. Insomniac in general just has a really good track record of making games with fun gameplay loops, which, as I've made it clear recently, is very important to me. However, as I've also talked about many times over the years, they've been slipping for a long time. The elephant in the room being Spider-Man 2, of course. Still the most viewed review on my channel. Not only was it a lazy sequel from a gameplay perspective, but obviously it was one of the most woke games I've ever played in my life. Just complete subversive trash designed to replace Peter Parker with Miles Morales and just humiliate Spider-Man at many opportunities in some of the most embarrassing side quests I think I've ever experienced in a video game. And I think it's obvious why I bring this up, to temper your expectations for Wolverine. You have to keep in mind that this is going to be full of woke slop shit just like that. There's even some warning signs in the trailer. 1, Deborah Wilson's in the game. That's the mark of Satan. For the modern game industry, I'm only half joking. Easy to work with my ass. She's probably part of the cult of Moloch. Warning sign number 2 is obviously Jean Grey, who looks like a hag, just like the leaks. Maybe slightly less disgusting looking, but they only showed her for like 3 seconds. And of course, she's just wearing like a generic trench coat. Couldn't have comic accurate uniform, so that would be cringy, even though Wolverine gets to have his. Oh, and apparently, according to developer interviews, the X-Men are not in this game. Instead, they have Team X, which is totally a different thing, guys. It's not that they wanted to remove the word men from the title X-Men. No, just a coincidence. Another issue I have with the game is how realistic everything looks. Yes, I know every modern game has to have realistic graphics and shit, but these are not comic book proportions. Wolverine looks like a cosplayer, dude. He's supposed to be 5'2" and as wide as he is tall. Here he's just a muscular guy who's kinda short, I guess. And I don't know if you would really consider this a warning sign, but does anyone else find it strange how much the left fetishizes brutally murdering women despite standing for feminism? Oh yeah, it's totally left-wing that half the enemies are female because it shows women are just as good as men. Which gives me a perfectly good reason to gore them with Wolverine's claws, I guess. And of course, the last red flag, this being the gameplay one, is despite the fact that there was a lot of blood, there appears to be no dismemberment, which makes it a significant downgrade from X-Men Origins Wolverine all the way back on the PS3. That said, this is Insomniac we're talking about, so I'm sure the gameplay will be competent at least. But we all know, especially since they're officially a Sony studio as of the past several years, this is going to be full of DEI shit. We all know it. You can already see it in the trailer, so there's no reason to get excited. Then after this extended showcase, most of the trailers were just for games that had already been announced and in some cases had several trailers. Phantom Blade Zero is probably the biggest example. Yes, I am interested in this game. I will play it. I'll probably review it. But it got announced like 2 years ago and has had a dozen trailers or some shit. One of the stranger reveals was the confirmation of the Rayman Legends remake. Why the hell does Rayman Legends need a remake of all things? Not only did it have a really strong art style that would not benefit in any way from a remake, and just judging by this new one, this already looks like a downgrade, let's be honest. But it was literally the last Rayman game, which, yes, was over 10 years ago now, kind of crazy to think about. But why the hell would they do this instead of remaking Rayman 2 or 3? And don't get me wrong, I'm not begging for another remake. I'd much rather they just make a new game, or maybe preferably Ubisoft just dies and its IPs are sold off to another company. This remake is just another obvious cash grab, just like the Assassin's Creed 4 one that's coming out in a few weeks. And the rest of the Sony showcase was, I don't know, pretty unremarkable. I suppose there might be some people who are excited about the return of Stunt Driver, but yeah, the rest of this is not even worth talking about on any level. The show ended with the reveal for the new God of War game. And my God, where do I even begin with this shit? This is just every single thing wrong with modern Sony games. It starts off with them claiming this is 20 minutes of uninterrupted gameplay, when in reality about 15 minutes of it were cutscenes or walking simulator sections, which I know that's literally exactly what God of War 2018 and Ragnarok were, so no one should be surprised. This is Sony's bread and butter these days. Over-the-shoulder action slop movie game. I don't even care that this is a God of War game without Kratos. I truly don't. Kratos should be retired. He should be fucking dead for how thoroughly they destroyed his character. He is not even close to the same person he was in the original trilogy. This is not character growth. This is castration. So I'm totally okay with that. What I'm not okay with is that we're playing as his dead wife that no one gives a single fuck about. God of War, the peak male power fantasy franchise where you're tearing people limb from limb. It's all about high testosterone, masculine rage, sleeping with bitches. I mean, despite the fact that Kratos slaughtered his wife and child, he still sleeps with dozens of women, if we're counting what happens in Ghosts of Sparta, which I am, over the course of the series. I mean, he takes a break from slaughtering all of Mount Olympus to sleep with Aphrodite, dude. That's what God of War is. But no, now it's about playing as a woman with a quirky Chungus talking sword in a fucking gelatinous cube. This is supposed to be the afterlife of the gods. And there's a fucking gelatinous cube from D&D. And it makes millennial quirk Chungus jokes. Kill me, please. I'm so done with video games, man. This is so parody tier. Hundreds of millions of dollars are being wasted so fucking Alana Pierce can write for a video game. Oh, and Elias Morgan, a fucking perfect example of someone failing upward because she wrote for fucking Gotham Knights and somehow ended up being the lead writer on God of War. 2 women are writing for God of War. And I'm trying to bite my tongue as much as humanly possible to not say extremely misogynistic things right here because I don't want this video to get taken down. I don't even know how much of this is worth dissecting in detail, really. No, I don't really care that it's the afterlife of the gods, which gives them an excuse to make the aesthetic whatever they want. They can have multiple pantheons of gods. Oh, look, this Egyptian god looks like an ebony queen. Yes, the Egyptians were totally all sub-Saharan Africans, guys, not propaganda. Oh, here's a Mongolian god. He actually looks alright, I guess. I couldn't really complain about that. What I can complain about is somehow Kratos' dead wife, who has 0 feats to her name. No, don't bring up a random text entry in God of War Ragnarok. I don't give a single fuck. She has 0 accomplishments on screen. There's no way she should be able to beat this guy, period, or literally anyone. I mean, just look at this hag-ass bitch. I know people are going to say in real life she was attractive. You're going to show pictures of her from 12 years ago. I know it. But these days, without the Hollywood makeup, she has hit the wall. I wouldn't be shocked if they just barely altered the face scan. I don't even care about that. I shouldn't be playing as a woman in a God of War game, period. Under any circumstances, no, making her attractive would not fix the problem. All right, that's enough about this. Let's move on to the main Summer Games Fest show with Jeff Keighley. Despite this being the main event of the entire weekend, I'll be honest, it was the most forgettable one if I'm not counting all of the various diversity shows that happened the day after. The opening reveal is for the Resident Evil Code Veronica remake. Now, as much as I hate remakes, this is probably the second most deserving game in the series of a remake because, well, it's just not that great of a game. I actually like Code Veronica probably more than most people do. I even A-ranked it on stream years ago, but it is undoubtedly a very flawed game. But unlike Resident Evil 0, which is just ass, Code Veronica could potentially be turned into a good game. The issue I have here is that this trailer looks nothing like Code Veronica. I realize this is just like the opening intro and then you're going to be taken to the prison island, but it's not really a good sign, man. All of these RE Engine games look exactly the same. They're probably just reusing assets from every previous game in the series. And there's a couple parts of this game that will almost certainly be censored. The most obvious one is Alfred Ashford.
Alfred! You cross-dressing freak!
No, we cannot have the villain be crazy and also cross-dress and pretend to be his sister. If we make fun of that, Sphere Hunter might reenact the in-water ending of Silent Hill 2. And what a shame that would be. Next reveal was a teaser for Alien Isolation 2, which I believe we already knew was in development. Nothing to say here, they didn't really show gameplay, just like about 80% of the trailers at the Summer Game Fest. We also see the creator of Shadow of the Colossus' next game, and funny enough, even during the fucking trailer, it ran at like 20 frames per second. After everyone was disappointed by The Last Guardian, I can't see anyone realistically getting excited about this. I guess it looks kinda cool at least. Probably the most baffling reveal of the show is when more gameplay was shown for Stranger Than Heaven, the Yakuza-like game. Apparently Tupac is going to be in it, back from the dead, thanks to Snoop Dogg and the Tupac estate. This is probably the closest that the Summer Game Fest came to the old E3 showcases. It's got some of that classic presentation cringe, as I'm sure the audience is just like, what the hell am I looking at right now? Then there was a bunch of slop trailers that, I'm gonna be honest, they're just not worth talking about on any level, and this is where the audio got desynced during the presentation. This happened multiple times over the course of the show. They blow all these millions to have video game trailers with no gameplay in them. But Jeff decided to hire the cheapest Indian off the street to handle the stream, so all of us had to deal with the audio desynced for what felt like 20 minutes. The worst trailer was for a game called Crossfire, where you play as a strong female protagonist in a modern warfare scenario. Yes, you're playing as an operator who has to team up with someone from the enemy team, and you're just girl bossing all over the place. This is realism shit. This reminds me of Rainbow Six Siege, where half the characters have to be women, or actually it's gotten much worse since I played the game. There's actually trans characters in now. This feels like the equivalent of having a female Navy SEAL. This is straight up LARP garbage propaganda, and when they had two of the executives come out to sell the game, the one gameplay feature they talk about that's supposed to sell you on this thing is adaptive cover, which is basically just your character crouches down low when the cover gets lower. Oh my god, the gameplay is gonna be so good, guys. Are we fucking serious? This is like the Call of Duty trailers talking about fish AI. After some more trailers I don't care about, they showed off more of the new Virtua Fighter game, and it looks like it's gonna have an expansive single-player mode that's more close to something like maybe Sifu or Sleeping Dogs, but look at how gross this fucking protagonist is. Everything is ugly and disgusting. I'm tired of it. Another clearly future woke slop game, 1666 Amsterdam, was revealed, where you play as a girl boss satanic witch, using your demonic powers for good. You know, after 1348 Ex Voto bombed horribly, well, I expect this game to do the same. Who the hell would want to play this? Next up, there was a new Saw game revealed. I'll probably stream this, but I'm sure it'll be complete ass, let's be honest. Oh, and yet another game I forgot to mention got shown off several times over the course of the weekend, Lords of the Fallen 2. I'm kind of tired of Souls-likes, but I won't lie, the dev has been trying to court the anti-woke crowd, which could be good or bad, I don't know, but I'll give it a shot. There was also 2 Star Wars games shown off. One was the new pod racer game, and another was like a tactics shooter. Star Wars is fucking dead, man. No one cares about Star Wars anymore. Yes, if they make a good enough game, I'm sure it'll sell decent, kind of like those Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order, those. They were alright, but I couldn't care less about this anymore. Another game that was shown off for what feels like the millionth time was The Blood of Dawnwalker, which is actually coming out fairly soon. I'm actually interested to try this game out. I'm always looking forward to more like medieval open world RPG type games. And speaking of which, the Gothic remake came out as this show started, but I've only played about an hour and a half of it, so I don't really have an opinion. Gothic fans will have to tell me if it's a giant piece of shit. This game looks somewhat promising, I'll say that. At this point, might as well just wait and see. I don't care to see any more trailers. Now, I know I said earlier that the Tupac reveal was the biggest WTF, but a close second would have to be the new Among Us slop. They wheeled out 2 D-list actresses who gave us a really, really embarrassing comedy routine.
Yvette? Look, I know fans have been dying for updates, but there's a dead body right there. And the imposter could be any one of us. I think this calls for an emergency meeting.
So you'd rather call a meeting than complete our task? That's suspicious.
Wow, women are so funny, dude.
this-
And then showed off what looks like a Globo Homo art style version of Among Us. What the fuck? And also there's a cartoon too. I'm sure it's gonna be complete shit, judging by what little they showed here. The next major reveal was from Capcom, and I was about to get really excited. And then I had the rug pulled out from under me. It's just a Monster Hunter Wilds expansion. We all knew this was gonna happen. Obviously, they're gonna try to save the game since they botched it so horrendously. But I can't say I'm really that excited. No, there was something else, a different expansion that I was looking forward to. And as it turns out, I did get what I wanted, but we'll get to that later. After 10 more minutes of slop trailers I couldn't care less about, A Wolf Among Us Part 2 was revealed. Now, I was never a big fan of Telltale games because they're not really video games, but I know a lot of people like Part 1, so I'm sure there's some people excited for this. Not me. And then, for the big reveal that upset millions of Twitter hags and men pretending to be women worldwide, Shift Up revealed the next Stellar Blade. And the protagonist looks like a 15-year-old girl. Now, if this was an anime game, I doubt anyone would really give a shit. I mean, probably a lot of the same people bitching about this, like the Persona series. But of course, because this was made for the male gaze, that's a problem. Now, that said, it was certainly a bold choice in this day and age to sexualize an underage protagonist like this. It's even got a lot of the typical anti-woke people pretty nervous and not supporting this anymore. Me, I don't really care. What I care about is the game good? The first game was decent, but it's clear that a lot of the culture warrior types overhyped its quality just because they wanted to jerk it to Eve's ass. So the question is, will this one make significant improvements on the gameplay? Because what little we've seen looks more or less the same. So yeah, I'm mostly apathetic towards this, honestly, even though the PDF file accusations are amusing to me. I'm certainly not going to feed into any outrage about people whacking it to a fictional character. Sorry. And then, for the final major reveal of the show, Jeff Keighley once again hyping it up. This time, it wasn't a high guard situation where it was obviously complete dog shit. No, it was a big reveal for Part 3 of the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. Listen, if you've seen my Rebirth review, you already know how I feel about this. I actually didn't grow up with Final Fantasy VII. I played it about a month before Rebirth came out, along with Part 1 of the remake, and I think Final Fantasy VII has held up pretty well. Not so much in the gameplay department, but that was never really the strong suit of classic JRPGs. The story's great, the characters are great. There's a reason Tifa's gonna be in Street Fighter 6. She's one of the most popular female game characters of all time. It's truly a mystery why. And Aerith deserved it, by the way. No one has deserved dying more than Aerith, it's true. But that said, who the hell is looking forward to restarting at level 1 again, losing all of your materia again, with basically nothing from Part 1 or Part 2 remake porting over to this one? And even worse still, it's going to be yet another giant empty sandbox with Ubisoft chores like Rebirth had. There's a reason why I called it specks of gold in a mountain of shit. I'm sure it's going to have some great story moments. It's going to tug on the nostalgia strings for all the Final Fantasy VII fans. But as a video game, it's probably just going to be okay. Let's be real. Alright, that was the Summer Game Fest main show. I've probably talked about more trailers than I should have. Despite dozens of games being shown, I really could not care less about almost any of them. I'm going to completely skip day 2 of the Summer Game Fest. All you need to know is that it was a bunch of virtue signaling woke slop. You know, black voices in gaming, green gaming, which is environmentalist games. There was the Pride Parade show. The Future Game Show was a complete nothing burger, as usual. It's just a million indie games that you're never going to try. They all look like ass. Oh, and I also watched an extended showcase for the game Exodus, which is basically the new Mass Effect. You would think I would have a lot to say on this game, but I really don't. It's incredibly diverse looking, and not in the good way, like having alien crewmates, which is actually interesting. No, the humans are very diverse. I'm pretty sure they confirmed there would be alien crewmates in earlier trailers for this shit, but I guess it happens later in the game, and they only showed something off early. But either way, this does not look good, man. Seriously, just compare it to Mass Effect. Only get headshots, I guess.
Awesome. That did the trick. We now catch up to the team having made it to the salvage.
Is this motherfucker on, like, antidepressants? Awesome. That did the trick. This is probably going to be another flop because it just looks kind of ugly. And it's got that sort of, like, feminine, gay look to the characters that are just going to put men off from buying this, and I doubt women are going to. So, yeah, not that interesting. So, on to Xbox's showcase. Now, Xbox arguably opened up strong with a showcase of Gears of War E-Day. Like I said in the intro, this is an obvious attempt to negotiate with the right-wing chud gamers, or at least the more center-right types who don't actually believe in anything but are just tired of seeing shit like Dragon Age Veilguard, you know, the extreme woke stuff. But the Overton window has shifted so far that just casually shoving in an ugly-ass black woman into the main crew is probably not even going to stand out to a lot of these people. I'm not going to lie, I was never a fan of Gears of War, so I'm not going to pretend that I really care if this has a bunch of subversive woke slop in it. I always thought cover-based third-person shooters were the worst subgenre of shooter. It's sad because I think that this format can work and be fun and exciting, but it takes a game like Vanquish, a game that's really fast-paced, where you constantly have to shift cover and you have all these really cool abilities so that you're not encouraged to just hide behind a waist-high wall, peek up, headshot, etc., you know? But again, I think everyone's standards are lower compared to 20 years ago when Gears of War came out. People are so desperate for something close to that PS3 360 brown and bloom era that they'll probably accept this with open arms and call people like me a grifter for criticizing it. You know the deal. There was an extended showcase of the gameplay after the show, and this is where you see the technical director of Gears of War is like this 60-year-old trans woman. Listen, I know I'm supposed to be talking about video games right now, but why the fuck would you even do this? I mean, look at this dude. Not to mention they have a black woman talk about Gears of War, and there's a trans flag in the background. Yes, I'm sure this will be a great game with no propaganda in it. Then we get to see the new head of Xbox, an Indian woman named Asha Sharma, who got exposed for basically never playing a video game before. Not going to go into it here, but people investigated her gamer tag. Yes, so we have a woman heading Xbox who's never played a video game. Great idea. Then we get yet another trailer for the dog shit, ugly ass, disgusting Fable game. Holy fuck, this is gonna bomb so hard it's unreal. You know what's funny? I didn't even know this, but even though this game has a character creator, it's only for your head, which means all of the animations between the male and female models are exactly the same. You're this androgynous, disgusting abomination. Why the hell would you want to play as that? And the whole trailer is this woman just prattling on about how great she is. I guess she's supposed to be the villain. This is fucking stupid. This is gonna be so shit, guys. Unbelievably shit. But dude, they brought back Jack of Blades. It's just like Fable. Then we got more information on the Halo D-Make, or should I say the second Halo D-Make since it already had one. And they revealed that not only are they adding in a bunch of guns from the later games, but there's gonna be 3 new levels, and there's gonna be millennial one-liners in the game. Oh my god, it's so over, dude. Honestly, the Xbox Showcase was my only motivation reason to even make this video because it had both the worst and the best aspects of the Summer Game Fest. It's just a complete fucking shit show, dude, except for one reveal. I guess Persona fans got thrown a bone. There's a Persona 4 remake revealed. And look, Persona 4 is a great game. Played it all the way through, really enjoyed it. But it already has a definitive version called Golden, so this is just another cash grab. And yes, there was a Persona 6 teaser as well, but they didn't show anything. Then it was just a rapid fire of a bunch of slop. I don't even think it's really worth talking about a lot of this stuff. There was a Doom the Dark Ages expansion. There was another Hellblade game, now just called Senua. Even though the second one bombed, yeah, it got funding for a third one somehow. Power of Microsoft money. There's a new Crazy Taxi game, but unfortunately it has AI slop in it. I guess it could possibly still be good. There was a zesty-ass magician game. There was yet another trailer for that Clockwork RPG that still has not come out. And honestly, just judging by the Diversity Squad protagonist and the evil white woman, I'm sure this will be the next Outer Worlds 2 tier review that I make. Probably the most bizarre reveal was for a game that looked like it was using the Studio Ghibli AI art generation, and you play as like a little girl with a boy's head. It just looked gross. And then finally, the only highlight of, again, 8 hours of fucking showcases I watched, the Spyro 4 reveal. Now, unfortunately, the trailer was only a minute long and only had about 5 seconds of gameplay. But Toys for Bob did an interview with IGN, and quite a few concerning things came up. One, apparently since Spyro is now a teenager, he can fly much more easily, meaning that you'll be able to start campfires and get an updraft, like this is Breath of the Wild or a similar game, and then you'll just be able to fly long distances. If you've ever played a 3D platformer before in your life, you would know this would completely trivialize the level design of any classic game. Not just talking about Spyro, we're talking about Crash Bandicoot, Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie. If you could just fly past every obstacle, there's no fucking game. But to support this kind of gameplay style, this means it either has to be an open world game or the levels have to be mini sandboxes. So either way, it's not going to be the tight focus level design of Spyro 1. They're going to have to do something completely different, most likely, which is certainly concerning. I'd say best case scenario, this flight mechanic works like Kazooie's does in the Banjo-Kazooie games. If it was contextual flight like that, and it was styled in that Banjo-Kazooie type of collectathon platformer, I think it could work. But I'm just afraid that it's going to be another game copying modern trends, pretending it's innovation, and not giving us the thing we want. Another issue with Toys for Bob is that they're furries. Yeah, I'm just going to say it like that. I mean, all you have to do is look at the dragon designs in the Spyro 1 remake, and of course the new Tawna in Crash 4, shit like that. You compare this to the original aesthetic of those games, and it's not even close. So yeah, in short, I'm going to reserve judgment until there's an extended gameplay trailer, but I really can't afford to get my hopes up anymore, let's be real. I've been disappointed 1,000 times. I'd be a fool to be hyped for this. That said, it is pretty awesome that Spyro 4 finally got announced after all these years. And then for the final reveal, if you can even call it one, they showed off a little bit of the new Call of Duty, specifically the new DMZ. I guess Warzone is going to have an extraction mode now because they got to jump on that trend. And of course, they have the whole fake gamer comms with no slurs, no sexual jokes, nothing normal human beings talk about with each other. I don't know, it was just slop. And then after the show is when they showed off a bunch more Gears of War. That was about it for the Xbox showcase. They actually topped Sony in terms of total woke slop shit. Half the trailers had female protagonists or incredibly diverse casts. And the only vaguely interesting game was Spyro. Everything else here is going to be dog shit. After this, I watched the PC Gaming Show, which was an extreme cringe fest, and there was nothing to see there, so I'm not going to cover it. So I'm going to talk briefly about the Nintendo Direct. Now, if you're a huge Nintendo fan and play all of their franchises, there were a few kind of interesting things here, like the new Fire Emblem, but I was never a fan of Fire Emblem because I like tactics games for the tactics, and the actual gameplay of Fire Emblem is a joke. joke. It's just slop. People just play it for the whole matchmaking simulator aspect. Another reveal I actually almost immediately forgot about was the new Xenoblade game, and the art style looks like it was kind of butchered here. It just looks really generic, and I'm guessing it takes place before the other ones because it's got less of a sci-fi vibe and more just traditional fantasy. Now, of course, this is the part where someone says that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 had a different art style compared to 1 and 3, and then, of course, this Chronicles X. I don't really care. I'm not really a huge Xenoblade guy. I think the series is overrated. Regardless, this just did not look very appealing. No, of course, the main reveal here I care about was just out of nowhere, the Dragon's Dogma 2 expansion was confirmed. I still can't even believe this. Like, I thought it was over. I thought it was beyond over. I thought it never even began. And yet, as it turns out, we're so back. Okay, I say this, but I think realistically, Dragon's Dogma 2 is so flawed to its core that there's no way that a Dark Arisen expansion, which it quite literally is Dark Arisen again, could possibly make this as good as the first game. And you can already see some mistakes they're making here. I would say the first one is that they decided to make a whole new open world zone when the actual open world is easily the weakest part of both games. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to have a new open world area, but I would much rather just have another Bitter Black Isle style expansion. There's a reason why everyone considers that the best part of the first game, because the most fun part of Dragon's Dogma is fighting the monsters, and it was a dungeon full of hard monsters to kill, you know? It essentially turned the game into a combination of Monster Hunter and Dark Souls. My other major concern with this DLC is, of course, going to be enemy variety. Everything they show in this trailer is basically just a reskin of an existing monster. We have a Yeti Cyclops, we got the returning cockatrice from 1, an Ice Dragon, which was also from 1, and of course, either the returning Ore Dragon, or maybe this is supposed to be the new Daemon. Instead of giving him a cool demon form, it's just a dragon. Either way, not really very exciting. Now, that said, there are 2 major free title updates coming to the game. The first one's not all that exciting, basically performance improvements, they're adding in an Eternal Fairy Stone, they're doing a whole bunch of quality of life stuff. But what's far, far more interesting is the second update in August is fixing arguably the biggest problem with the combat mechanics in this game. They are increasing the number of equipable skills from 4 to 6. This is proof that Capcom is actually listening to player feedback right here. And I don't know if a bunch of these idiotic decisions that were made with the sequel were Itsuno's fault, or maybe he was just rushed too much in development, or what. But now that he's gone from the company, they're suddenly fixing a bunch of the weird jankness from the original release. I actually am really happy about this. I still don't think the mechanics are going to be as good as the original game, but now that we have 6 skills, that's definitely a good sign. I'd say worst case scenario though with this DLC is that it was given a very small budget, and that budget was wasted on making a new area of the world map instead of making a highly replayable dungeon like Bitter Black Isle. I mean, they're even bringing back the item appraisal system, essentially the gacha that was in Bitter Black Isle, which was the worst element for some people. I thought it was okay. But putting that in like an open world map where you just kill monsters and you just get a random ass drop, I don't know, that's kind of more boring if you ask me. But I'm not going to yap anymore about this. This video was not supposed to be a Dragon's Dogma video. The only other major reveal that was interesting from the Nintendo Direct was that they are once again remaking Ocarina of Time. Nintendo's truly in their creatively bankrupt phase right now, just trying to milk their IPs for everything they're worth without innovating, without creating anything new at all. Just like Star Fox 64 got remade on 3DS, so did Ocarina of Time, but it wasn't good enough. We need a modern AAA remake. I'm sure a bunch of people will buy this, even if it ends up being a demake, whatever. Who the fuck cares anymore? And there you go, another year, another showcase of future flops. That was a massive waste of my time, of your time, but at the very least, Spyro 4 got revealed, so it wasn't all bad. It used to be tradition to pick a winner from each E3, but what would be the point of doing that here? I'm tempted to give the win to Xbox just because they showed Spyro, but I think almost every other trailer was even more woke than Sony's show, which is pretty impressive. I think I've said this before. Like I said, I think I've made this video 5 times by now, but no matter who won, we, the gamers, lost. So who really cares? If I have to look at the silver lining here, I'll just say I won because of Spyro and because of the Dragon's Dogma 2 DLC. The only thing that could have made this a better show for me is if Capcom had also shown off Okami 2, but I just don't really care about any modern game releases anymore. We know all this stuff is going to be mid at best. A lot of it's going to be liquid shit. I don't think a 10 out of 10 video game has come out in like 10 years. No reason to get your hopes up really about anything. I guess I'll leave you on that depressing note. That's about it. See you next time, guys. Look at that thing. When you picture gamer, you think fucking eating shit and with tits.